bringing you the latest news from Coronado Athletics. This is the Mustang Fan Zone podcast from 100.7 The Score.
Good Monday evening on the last Monday of April, I believe, if I'm looking at the calendar right. I'm Randy Rosetta. This is 100.7 The Score, and this is the High School Fan Zone, where we chat all stuff high school sports on Monday nights. It is LISD night, so it's Coronado, make sure I get this right, Coronado, Estacado, Lubbock High, and Monterey in that order, 6 to 7:30 every Monday into spring. And then Wednesdays we come back at you with Friendship, Lubbock Cooper, and Liberty. Soon to add Memorial. We may do that before the school year's done. I'm not sure if we're thinking about if we've talked about that yet or not. Got all their I think they've got all their coaches hired. I've not seen Brian Gerlich stick his head out for a while, so he's been busy. Tonight, we're going to start with, in the Mustang Fan Zone, talking some Coronado baseball. If you're watching on TV, you can see to my far left is Coach Brad Bibb. In between us is Zarius Martinez and Bodie Pope. Bodie, have I ever asked you, are you related to the former mayor?
No, sir, I'm not.
Okay.
I get that. I get that a lot. I'm not.
It's probably, and all power to former Mayor Pope, but I'm glad for you because I don't know if I'd want to be the mayor's son. That wouldn't be much fun. So.
Yeah, everywhere I went, I got asked that all the time.
Bodie Pope, the baseball player.
Uh-huh.
Darius, hopefully you don't have any politicians. Well, I want that to sound wrong. I love politicians. Jody Arrington's, I believe one of his nephews is coming in later tonight. So the Arrington family comes on here all the time. They're very popular here. So let's not talk about politics. Let's talk about sports. And let's talk about Coronado baseball because this is not new news because we've talked about it, I think, twice.
I think so.
You guys are back in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I said this to Coach not about a month ago, I think, before it was officially official. To me, it's good that Coronado baseball is back in the playoffs. That makes the world seem a little bit right at this time of year. You guys took care of business, and I wrote the story the other day. You had kind of sealed the deal, gotten back, you claimed the spot 2 games before the end of the regular season. Came back and took care of some business last week. I want these guys to start out talking about because Bodie was great talking about it the other day. Bodie, you lost to Tascosa, so when we talked before that, you guys still had designs on trying to win a district championship. Tascosa spoiled that for you, but you came back, beat them in a kind of a weird game on Saturday that got delayed, and you guys had the game in hand, and then they kept coming back. What I wrote on HubCityPreps.com is that game is a little bit like your whole season where you guys just had to keep scratching and clawing and finding a way.
Yeah, like I said Saturday, we kind of stayed focused on the bigger picture rather than like focusing on like, when is game time, this and that. We've really stayed focused on the bigger picture and just not letting the small issues get in the way of what we really want. So we've stayed pretty focused on that.
Zarius, I was a high school kid a long time ago. I know that's hard to imagine. But what Bodie just said, that's not always easy to just block out all the noise because you guys had, Coach and I talked about this, you had prom on Saturday. You had a long rain delay where you guys played Family Feud, apparently, according to social media urban legend. Even Saturday, it was still, weather was kind of cruddy. You didn't know, but in that game meant something to you guys and to Tascosa. How did you guys, is that just being an older team now? How did you guys kind of block that out?
Well, with us missing the playoffs the past 2 years, the chemistry came together as a team since we were all young at a point. We all came together, and now it's just at the end of the day, we want to be 1-0 against that team. So, Brad Bibb, Coach Bibb, he just told us at the end of the day, like, we want to be 1-0. No matter how the game goes, just the outcome, we want to be 1-0.
It took every ounce of those 7 innings to get there, Brad.
Yeah.
We talked afterwards. I sensed some relief, not just that you guys had gotten to the end of the regular season, could kind of start transition, but Tascosa, and whether they knew that their fate had kind of been sealed or not, they just kept scrapping and clawing right to the very end.
Yeah, I think it speaks to, how desperate they were and trying to win a game. And, it was a wild 24 hours trying to figure out what we were going to do to get the game in. And then, I thought we played really well Saturday. Mm-hmm. They're still waiting to hit a ball hard. Everything was dink and dunk and just crazy. And I think it speaks to what we've talked about all year with these guys. The mental toughness on our group has raised tenfold, and you can see that in the close games. Our record in close games is really, really good. We won a lot of close games, and I think that speaks to our experience, how old we are, our mental toughness, all those things, and just a desire to win, and our kids just want to win, and they don't care who gets the credit. They don't care. They just want to win, and they've been able to do it time and again.
I think if I counted right, that was your 5th district win by either 1 or 2 games.
I wouldn't be shocked if it was more than that, honestly. It feels like every game's been close.
And there were some other games in there I know that didn't wind up 1 or 2 run games, but went to the last inning where you had to kind of stretch it a little bit. And you had a few, I can't even remember, I think I called them bounce back, because all 3 district losses, you guys came back and won the second half of the home and home.
Yeah.
Which I guess that kind of ties into what Bodie and Zaria said, that these guys are good at turning the pace. Sometimes I mentioned to them that sometimes players like to play games more than practice. Sometimes coaches obsess about losses more than they do.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think high school kids are able to turn that on a little bit quicker.
Yeah, I think they've been able to flush it really quickly this year, and to bounce back from losing those 3 and not get swept by anybody, I think is why we're in the position we're in.
And I said this to Coach, you guys finished in a second-place tie against a very good Amarillo High team that lost the night before your game by just a sliver to Lubbock Cooper. So all 3 teams are right there. I'm going to go through the playoff schedule here in a minute, but I have a feeling, you guys can talk about this, you've seen them now, I have a feeling these 3 teams from District 3-5A have a chance. And Plainview, I don't want to my wife's a Plainview girl, I can't discount them.
No, you can't.
They had to scratch and claw and find a way to. All 4 teams, I think, have a chance to, kind of like a few years ago, when I think all 4 of you went.
Both previous years, all 4 teams from our district went to the 3rd round. Both previous years. So,
Bodie, we're coming up on a break in a minute or so here. Do you think that's something that could happen? Do you think the way you guys have been tested in this district has got all 4 of these teams ready?
Yeah, Lubbock Cooper is going to be Lubbock Cooper. They're a solid ball club, always. Amarillo High, they're just a really gritty team, and as well as Plainview. But I think there's nothing on our team that is on somebody else that's special about someone else. I think we've got every aspect in the game that you could ask for, and I think that it'll get us a long, long way in this playoff run.
And Coach, I ran this by Coach. 3 of you guys were actually on the playoff team from 2023. 2022.
Yeah.
We're coming up on the break. We'll come back and talk more Coronado baseball in the Mustang Fan Zone on 100.7 The Score. This is Randy Rosetta.
Diving headfirst into Coronado athletics. You're listening to the Mustang Fan Zone on 100.7 The Score and the 100.7 The Score mobile app.
Welcome back to the Mustang Fan Zone. I think Brendan's got me sounding better. I wish he could make me look younger. I don't think Brendan's got that power. I mentioned I'm going to run through the playoffs. I'm going to start with Coronado's 5A Division I by-district playoff series. Coronado takes on Abilene Cooper, which is they're no stranger to Abilene Cooper. They've seen them in district the last several years and played them in the playoffs not too long ago, if I remember right. We were just talking to Brad about one of their playoff series that got adjusted by weather. One against Cooper did, too. They started at Permian, and that was my first ever trip to Fort Stockton. Yep. Yes.
Wow.
Because Gary Hicks came up to me and said, we're just moving down the road to Fort Stockton. I thought, it's a 15-minute drive, and an hour and a half later, here we are. Anyway, Coronado, Abilene Cooper, best of 3. Game 1, 5 p.m. Friday. Game 2, 11 a.m. Saturday. Game 3, hopefully they won't need Game 3, would be 30 minutes later. That's at Andrews High School, which is like a lot of stuff down that direction. Really nice facilities. I believe they have turf now.
They do, first year. Yep.
You like that turf now after all this weather.
Turf's good for us.
You guys, Bodie, you were on the playoff team. Did you get to play a few years ago when you guys were last in the playoffs?
No, sir. I was more of like a bench guy, energy guy, just kind of like getting a feel for like the speed difference of the game. But a playoff game in the atmosphere was definitely something that you could never, ever imagine until you're there.
Same for you, Zaris. I know you weren't there, but how excited are you to get out there and kind of feel what it's like?
Man, I'm so ready. My past 3 years of playing, I didn't make the playoffs. Now it's my senior year, and I finally get a chance to experience what it feels like to be in the playoffs.
So if Bodie's talked about being one of the energy guys, I've watched you enough, Zaris, to know you bring a little bit of an emotion emotional edge. And I'm thinking back to the Lubbock High series. There's a little bit of chatting back and forth. Victor Gomez is coming on later with a couple of his guys to wrap up the season. When you get to two teams from in town together, there's going to be some familiarity. You handled things well. I thought you heard a lot, but you answered the right way. I thought on the field, you took care of business on the field. What's it been like this season to go through those emotions, to get this late in the season and be in games that have that energy, that have those stakes involved?
I started off pretty well during tournaments. Then we went to district, and I kind of struggled, got in a little slump. Then against the Lubbock High game, and then being my previous school that I went to my freshman year, it just kind of helped me get out of my slump that I was in. It got me at my outbreak, and just me being who I am, saying what I do, and proving everything on the field, it just helped me to break out of what I was in.
Brad, I know we've chatted about this a time or two, maybe not on the air, but just talking. You guys have answers everywhere. I don't know if there's a more eloquent way to say it. You have guys at every spot that you're able to rely on and lean into a little bit.
Yeah, I think one of the things I hoped coming into the year was I thought we were a little deeper than we've been. And I think we've been able to play 13, 14 guys throughout the year and keep guys fresh. And, we've rolled in 3 and 4 and 5 arms. And I think we're fresh right now. And I think that can be a real big bonus for us. If we play well this week and get to play longer, then I think we've got a chance to maybe outcompete people because we're a little fresher this time of year, and that's been really nice to have. I felt like the last couple of years we've had to grind so hard to get through district that guys have just been exhausted by the end of it. And combined with the injuries and the other stuff we've dealt with, that hopefully we're good on right now. But I feel like our depth is something that can really help us.
I think Coach has been going to church more this year or something.
I've been trying to.
He's avoided that being snake bit. You guys do have, to me, maybe this is the best put-together team since the last time you were in the playoffs. And you mentioned the grind of the district the last 2 years, but this district this year was bigger, deeper. Tascosa goes into the last week having a chance. Plainview finds a way to get in. Bodie, how does this district prepare you guys for this time of year? Because you guys had to play 16 games. Well, to be fair, and I'm not going to diminish anybody, but I'd say 12 of those games were against really, really good teams.
Like you said earlier, this team, from the beginning of the year to where we are now, the change is tremendous. Off the field, we're best friends. On the field, we take care of business. And I think carrying that into the playoffs will help us a crap ton, because we know what each other's tendencies are. We know about each other, and we're just close. And I think it'll give us some more team chemistry, and just give us more trust in each other going into this run.
So real quick, Brad, the Abilene Cooper last year, how did you guys fare against them?
We went 1-2, beat them the first time, and then they got us the last 2. And I think the first 2 games were one-run games. Close games. We talked today 3-3 against them the last 2 years. 2 similar teams. It's going to be a really good series.
They're here for a reason.
They are.
They had to take care of business in their district. That starts Friday down in Andrews. We'll be back after this break to talk Lubbock High, Estacado, Matador Fan Zone on 100.7 The Score.